My name is Selena, and I am 32 years old, working as an accountant in Boston. Growing up in a close knit family, my parents and younger sister Amanda were my whole world. Then came that envelope with mortgage documents and those devastating words from my parents. We have decided you should be the one to pay for your sister's new house mortgage. At first, I thought it was some cruel joke, but their serious faces told me otherwise. Before I tell you how this family nightmare unfolded, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe if family drama stories resonate with you. Trust me, you'll want to hear what the judge finally decided. I grew up in a modest suburban neighborhood outside of Chicago. Our house wasn't fancy, but it was comfortable enough for our family of four. My parents, Thomas and Catherine Walker, always emphasized that family loyalty came before anything else in life. This mantra was repeated so often during family dinners that it became almost like a prayer before eating. As far back as I can remember, there was always something slightly off about how my parents treated Amanda compared to me. Amanda was 4 years younger, with naturally blonde hair and bright blue eyes that made strangers stop and comment on how adorable she was. I had darker features, more serious and studious by nature. The differences in how we were treated were subtle at first. When I was 12 and Amanda was 8, I noticed she always got new clothes for school, while I received carefully preserved hand-me-downs from cousins. My parents explained that since I was more mature, I should understand that money needed to be saved somewhere. When I had my first piano recital after 3 years of lessons, my parents missed it because Amanda had a cold. Not a serious illness, just sniffles and a mild fever. Yet when Amanda had her first ballet performance months later, my father took off work early, and my mother spent days preparing special treats for the celebration afterward. The pattern continued throughout high school. My academic achievements were expected, not celebrated. When I made the honor roll, my father's response was simply, "That's what you're supposed to do, Selena." But when Amanda got a B+ on a difficult test, there were special dinners and excessive praise. By 16, I was working part-time at the local grocery store, saving every penny for college. My parents had set up college funds for both of us, but during my junior year of high school, they sat me down for a serious talk. "Selena, we need to use some of your college fund for Amanda's orthodontic work," my father explained. "Your grades are so good that you'll surely get scholarships anyway." I didn't argue because family loyalty came first, right? So I worked longer hours, applied for every scholarship possible, and eventually managed to attend state university, with a combination of financial aid scholarships and my own savings. Meanwhile, Amanda attended a private university completely funded by my parents. She majored in communications, joined a sorority, and spent semesters abroad in Europe. I visited home during one holiday break to find my parents proudly displaying photos of Amanda posing in front of the Eiffel Tower. After graduation, I accepted a position at a respected accounting firm in Boston. The distance from Chicago was part of the appeal. I needed space from the family dynamics that always left me feeling somehow lacking. Despite moving away, I maintained regular contact with my family. Sunday phone calls, holiday visits, birthday gifts sent on time. The relationship was cordial but increasingly distant. I was building my own life, focusing on my career, and slowly creating a circle of friends who appreciated me for who I was. Amanda, meanwhile, bounced between jobs after college. She worked briefly at a PR firm, then a magazine, then tried her hand at social media management for a small company. None of these positions lasted more than 6 months. Between jobs, she lived at home with our parents. The pattern with money continued into adulthood. Amanda would call me occasionally, usually when she needed something. Sometimes it was advice about how to handle her maxed out credit cards. Other times it was more direct. "Selena, can you lend me $500 until next month? I'll pay you back, promise." The promised repayments rarely materialized, but I continued helping her in small ways. Family loyalty after all. While Amanda struggled with financial responsibility, I was advancing in my career. By 30, I had been promoted to senior accountant at my firm and was managing a small team. I had paid off my student loans and was saving for a down payment on my own home. My credit score was excellent, a point of personal pride, given how hard I'd worked to build good financial habits. Last summer, our parents organized a family reunion at their home. Relatives from across the country gathered for a weekend of barbecues and catching up. I took Friday off work and flew to Chicago, arriving with a carefully selected gift basket for my parents. During the Saturday evening dinner, Amanda announced her engagement to her boyfriend Jackson, whom she'd been dating for just under a year. She flashed a sizable diamond ring as relatives rushed to congratulate her. My parents beamed with pride. "Jackson comes from a good family," my mother whispered to our aunt loud enough for everyone to hear. His parents own several investment properties. Later that same evening, I tried to share news of my recent promotion at work. My father nodded distractedly while scrolling through photos on Amanda's phone, pictures of potential wedding venues she was considering. "That's nice, dear," my mother said, before quickly turning the conversation back to wedding plans. I flew back to Boston on Sunday with a familiar hollow feeling. As the plane took off, I promised myself that I'd continue building my life on my own terms. I had good friends, a fulfilling career, and was close to achieving my goal of homeownership. If my parents couldn't see my value, that was their loss. I had no idea that their lifetime of subtle favoritism was about to transform into something much more damaging. Something that would test not just family bonds, but legal boundaries as well. The call came on a Tuesday evening in late September, as I was preparing a simple dinner in my apartment. My mother's name flashed on my phone screen, unusual since our regular calls were on Sundays. "Selena, we need you to come home this weekend," my mother said without preamble. "There's an important family discussion we need to have in person." My stomach tightened with apprehension. Important family discussion was never a phrase that preceded good news. "What is this about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "It's not something we can discuss over the phone," my father interjected, apparently on speakerphone. "Just be here Saturday morning." I requested Friday off work, booked an overpriced last-minute flight, and spent the next few days distracted by worst-case scenarios. Was someone ill? Were my parents selling the family home? Was Amanda pregnant? The flight to Chicago felt longer than usual, my anxiety building with each passing hour. I took a taxi from the airport directly to my parents' house, arriving just before 11 Saturday morning. The atmosphere in this house was oddly formal. My parents sat stiffly on the living room sofa, with Amanda perched on the armchair nearby. No one stood to hug me when I entered. "Good you're here," my father said, gesturing to the empty chair across from them. "Sit down, Selena." I sat, placing my overnight bag beside me. "What's going on?" My mother and father exchanged glances, before my father cleared his throat and began. "As you know, Amanda and Jackson are getting married next spring," he began. "They are starting their life together and need a proper home." My mother nodded enthusiastically. "We wanted to help them begin their marriage on solid footing, so we found them a lovely house in Lakewood Heights." "That's nice of you," I said, relaxing slightly. This was about Amanda's wedding, nothing more. Just the usual favoritism I had grown accustomed to. My father reached for a folder on the coffee table and opened it. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial just under $480,000. The schools in the area are excellent for when they start a family. He turned the folder toward me, showing photos of an admittedly charming house with a large yard and modern kitchen. Amanda was beaming with pride, as if she'd somehow earned this generous gift. "We're so grateful," Amanda gushed, looking at our parents adoringly. My father slid the folder closer to me. Inside, beneath the photos, I saw a stack of legal documents. Mortgage papers. That's when my mother dropped the bomb. "We've decided you should be the one to pay for this mortgage, Selena." I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "The mortgage is in your name," my father stated matter-of-factly. "You've always been so responsible with money, and you have excellent credit. Amanda and Jackson aren't in a position to qualify for a loan of this size yet." I felt like the room was tilting sideways. "You're joking, right? This is some kind of weird prank." "No joke, Selena," my mother said firmly. "We've decided this is the best way to help your sister. Family helps family. You've always understood that." I looked down at the mortgage papers, flipping through them with increasing horror. There was my name on the documents. Even more shocking, there was what appeared to be my signature on several pages, though I had certainly never signed them. "I never agreed to this," I said, my voice rising. I never signed these papers. This is fraud. Amanda rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic, Selena. It's not like you're not going to eventually buy a house anyway. This way, you're helping me and Jackson start our lives together. With trembling hands, I continued examining the documents. A 30-year mortgage for $480,000 with my name as the sole borrower. The monthly payments would be over $2,300. You forged my signature, I said, looking directly at my father. He didn't deny it. We did what was necessary for the family. You make good money, and you don't have the expenses of planning a wedding or starting a family. You're asking me to take on nearly $500,000 in debt for a house I won't live in, that I had no say in choosing, and that I don't even want. I was struggling to keep my voice steady. We're not asking, my mother corrected. The paperwork is already done. We're informing you of your responsibility to the family. Amanda is your sister. I stood up, my legs unsteady. This is insane and illegal. I'm not paying for Amanda's house. My sister's face darkened with anger. After everything this family has done for you, this is how you repay us. By ruining my dream wedding and future. I turned to face her. What exactly has this family done for me that I'm not aware of? I've worked for everything I've achieved while you've been handed everything on a silver platter. My father's voice cut through our argument like ice. If you refuse to accept your duty to this family, Selena, you will no longer be considered part of it. Is that what you want? The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I felt trapped, cornered by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I need some time to think, I managed to say, though what I really wanted was to run from the house screaming. The paperwork needs to be officially finalized by Monday, my father said. We'll need your decision by tomorrow. I nodded numbly and picked up my bag. I'm going to my room. Once alone in my childhood bedroom, I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. Panic was rising in my chest, making it difficult to think clearly. How could they do this to me? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? When my breathing steadied, I took out my phone and carefully photographed each page of the mortgage documents, paying special attention to the forged signatures. Whatever happened next, I needed evidence. That night, lying in my old bed, surrounded by faded posters and high school trophies, sleep evaded me. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the conversation and considering my options. By morning, I knew exactly what my answer would be. I found my parents and Amanda in the kitchen the next morning. They were having breakfast as if it were any normal Sunday, as if they hadn't just attempted to saddle me with nearly $500,000 in fraudulent debt. Have you made your decision? My father asked without preamble. I took a deep breath and sat down across from them. Yes, I have. I'm not doing it. I will not pay for Amanda's house. The silence that followed was deafening. After everything we've done for you, my mother finally said, her voice quivering with practiced emotion. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, supported you through college. I raised an eyebrow. Supported me through college. I worked multiple jobs and took out loans while you paid for Amanda's entire education, including her semesters abroad. That's different, my father dismissed. You were capable of supporting yourself. Amanda needed more help. Amanda, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly burst into tears. You're ruining everything, she wailed. We already told Jackson's family about the house. His parents are coming to see it next weekend. What are we supposed to tell them now? Tell them you can't afford it, I suggested calmly, like normal people who don't try to commit fraud against their own family members. My father slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. This is not fraud. This is family helping family. Then put the house in your name, I challenged. Why does it have to be in mine? My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Our credit isn't what it used to be, my mother admitted reluctantly, and we're too close to retirement to take on such a large debt. I shook my head in disbelief. So instead, you decided to forge my signature and attempt to force me into massive debt without my knowledge or consent. Do you realize that's identity theft? We used information from your old tax documents to complete the application, my father said, as if that somehow made it better. We knew you'd agree once you understood how important this is for Amanda's future. The casual admission that they had gone through my personal documents to steal my information sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was calculated, premeditated fraud. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. Amanda stopped crying long enough to answer. "Since we got engaged in June. Mom and Dad said you would obviously agree because you always give in." Her words struck me like a physical blow. Was that really how they saw me? Someone who always gives in. Someone they could manipulate and use without consequences. I stood up suddenly, needing to be anywhere but in that kitchen with these people who claim to be family. "I'm leaving," I announced. "And I'm not signing those papers. What you've done is illegal, and if you proceed with trying to hold me responsible for this mortgage, I will report it to the authorities." My father's face flushed with anger. "If you walk out that door without agreeing to help your sister, don't bother coming back. Ever." My mother gasped. "Thomas, surely—" "No, Catherine." He turned to me, eyes cold. "Selena needs to understand that family obligations go both ways. If she won't support Amanda now, then she is no longer welcome in this family." I looked at each of them. These people I'd spent my life trying to please, trying to be good enough for. Something inside me broke free. "Family obligations should never include fraud or identity theft," I said quietly. "Goodbye." I grabbed my overnight bag still packed from the day before and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear my mother crying and my father shouting threats. "If you don't reconsider, we'll take action," he called after me. "You won't like what happens next." Selena, I didn't stop or look back. I got into my rental car and drove straight to the airport, changing my flight to the earliest available return to Boston. During the drive, my phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from my family. I ignored them all. Only once I was through airport security did I check the messages. From my mother. "How could you do this to your sister, after everything we've sacrificed for you?" From Amanda. "Thanks for ruining my life again. Jackson is devastated." From my father. "This isn't over. You will fulfill your family obligation or face the consequences." The threat in my father's message sent another chill through me. What exactly did he mean by consequences? On the flight back to Boston, I sat next to a woman who chatted amicably about her grandchildren. I nodded and smiled automatically, my mind racing with fears and contingency plans. As soon as I landed, I called my friend Tara, who worked as a legal assistant. They did what Tara exclaimed after I explained the situation. "Selena, that's identity theft and fraud. You need to report this to the police and get a lawyer immediately." "Do you really think I need to go that far?" I asked, still reluctant to take legal action against my own family. "Yes, I absolutely do," Tara insisted. "This isn't a small thing. They're trying to saddle you with nearly $500,000 of debt. And based on what your dad said, they might try to pursue this. You need to protect yourself." By the time I arrived at my apartment that evening, I had the name of a lawyer who specialized in identity theft cases and a plan to visit the police station the following day. I hoped it wouldn't come to that my parents would recognize the seriousness of what they'd done and back down. I was wrong. 2 weeks after my disastrous visit home, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. The return address belonged to a law firm in Chicago. My hands shook as I opened it. "Dear Ms. Walker." The letter began formally. "We represent Thomas and Catherine Walker in the matter of a verbal agreement made between you and your parents regarding financial assistance for your sister, Amanda Walker. Our clients assert that you agreed to provide monetary support for the purchase of a residence for your sister in the amount of $480,000 and have since reneged on this agreement." I sat down hard on my sofa, the letter clutched in my hand. They were actually going through with it. They were suing me. The letter continued outlining my supposed verbal agreement and threatening legal action for breach of contract. It also mentioned something called family abandonment, a term I had never heard before. The final paragraph gave me 7 days to respond before they would file a formal lawsuit. I immediately called Jennifer Hamilton, the attorney Tara had recommended. Her secretary scheduled an emergency consultation for that same afternoon. Jennifer's office was in a converted brownstone in downtown Boston. The waiting room had comfortable leather chairs and framed diplomas on the walls. Despite the elegant surroundings, my stomach was in knots. Jennifer herself was a tall, imposing woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She read the letter carefully while I sat across from her desk, trying not to fidget. "Well, this is certainly aggressive," she said, finally placing the letter down, "but not particularly well-founded in legal reality. Tell me everything from the beginning." I recounted the entire story from the surprise invitation home to the discovery of the forged documents to my parents' threats. Jennifer took detailed notes, occasionally asking for clarification. "Do you have copies of the mortgage documents?" she asked. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I had taken. "Good thinking," she nodded approvingly. "And did you file a police report yet?" "No," I admitted. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to that." Jennifer leaned forward, her expression serious. "Selena, your parents have committed several crimes here. Identity theft, forgery, and now they're attempting to extort you through legal threats. We need to act quickly to protect you." Over the next hour, Jennifer outlined a strategy. First, we would file a police report for the identity theft and forgery. Then she would respond to the letter denying any verbal agreement and warning them against pursuing fraudulent claims. Finally, we would contact the mortgage company to alert them to the fraud. "What will happen to my parents?" I asked, still conflicted despite everything. "Could they go to jail?" Jennifer sighed. "Technically, yes, they could face criminal charges. But often in family cases like this, if the victim doesn't push for prosecution and the financial institutions are made whole, criminal charges might be avoided. But, Selena," she added firmly, "you need to protect yourself first." I left her office with a plan, but a heavy heart. That evening, I checked my credit report and found several recent inquiries from mortgage companies. My excellent credit score had already dropped 30 points from these hard pulls. The damage was already beginning. The next day, I filed a police report providing the photos of the forged documents as evidence. The officer taking my statement seemed sympathetic, but unsurprised. "You wouldn't believe how common family financial fraud is," he told me. "People think blood relationships make it okay somehow." Jennifer sent a strongly worded response to my parents' lawyer outlining the evidence of fraud and warning against pursuing legal action based on fraudulent claims. We hoped that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 3 weeks later, I was served with actual lawsuit papers at my office, causing a scene that left me humiliated in front of my colleagues. My parents were demanding that I pay them $480,000 for the house they had purchased for my sister, claiming I had promised to do so. The stress began affecting every aspect of my life. I had trouble sleeping, often waking in the middle of the night in a panic. My work performance suffered with my normally meticulous accounting work, now containing occasional errors that my supervisor had to point out. My appetite disappeared, and friends commented on my weight loss. Yet despite this, I found unexpected support. My colleagues at the accounting firm rallied around me, offering encouragement and understanding when I needed to take time off for legal meetings. Tara brought meals to my apartment and listened patiently when I needed to vent. But the feeling of betrayal was overwhelming. These were my parents, the people who were supposed to protect me, not harm me. And Amanda, who I'd spent a lifetime trying to support despite her selfishness, was fully complicit. One evening, scrolling through social media in a moment of weakness, I saw Amanda had posted her official engagement announcement. There she was beaming beside Jackson, standing in front of the house that my parents had tried to force me to pay for. The caption read, "So blessed to be starting our life together in our dream home wedding countdown. 6 months to go." The comments were filled with congratulations and questions about how a young couple could afford such a beautiful house. Amanda's reply made my blood boil. "When you have a loving, supportive family, anything is possible." I threw my phone across the room, thankful that it landed on the carpet unbroken. The audacity was staggering. While I was facing a lawsuit and credit damage, they were playing happy families on social media. As the court date approached, the pressure intensified. Extended family members began calling, having heard about the lawsuit from my parents. Some expressed shock and support for me, but others tried to convince me to just pay the money for the sake of family harmony. Aunt Sarah, my mother's sister, was particularly persistent. "Selena, honey can't. You just help them out. Family has to stick together. Did Mom tell you they forged my signature and applied for a mortgage in my name without my knowledge? I asked. Well, I'm sure they didn't mean any harm by it, she hedged. They were just trying to help Amanda. By committing fraud against me, I countered. The conversation ended soon after, with Aunt Sarah promising to pray for us all. I added her to the growing list of family members I could no longer trust. Despite the chaos and stress, Jennifer assured me we had a strong case. The evidence of forgery was clear, and my parents' claim of a verbal agreement would be difficult to prove, especially given the size of the alleged promise. As we prepared for court, I tried to steady myself for what would surely be an emotional confrontation. I hadn't seen or spoken directly to my parents or Amanda since that Sunday morning in their kitchen. Soon we would be face to face again, but this time with a judge between us. The county courthouse was an imposing stone building in downtown Boston. I arrived early on the morning of the hearing dressed in a conservative navy suit, my hair pulled back in a neat bun. Jennifer met me on the steps, her briefcase in hand, and a confident smile on her face. Remember, stay calm no matter what they say, she advised as we walked inside. The facts are on our side. The courtroom was smaller than I had imagined, with polished wooden benches and the distinctive smell of furniture polish and old books. My parents and Amanda were already seated on the opposite side with their attorney, a balding man in an expensive suit. My father glared at me while my mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Amanda stared straight ahead, refusing to look in my direction. Judge Patricia Morgan, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, entered and called the court to order. After introducing the case, she invited my parents' lawyer to present their argument first. Mr. Bradford approached the bench with an air of righteous indignation. Your Honor, this is a simple case of a daughter refusing to honor her commitment to her family. Thomas and Catherine Walker have spent their lives providing for their daughters, making sacrifices to ensure they had every advantage. When their younger daughter Amanda became engaged, they naturally wanted to help the young couple establish themselves. He paced, slightly warming to his narrative. Selena Walker, as the more financially successful daughter, agreed to help. She verbally committed to assisting with the mortgage payments for her sister's home as a wedding gift. Only after the purchase was underway did she suddenly renege on this promise, leaving her parents to cover costs they had not budgeted for based on her assurance. I gripped the edge of the table, fighting the urge to interrupt the blatant lies. Jennifer placed a calming hand on my arm. Your Honor, Mr. Bradford continued. Family obligations may not always be written in formal contracts, but they are no less binding in the moral sense. The Walkers are simply asking their daughter to fulfill the promise she made to them. Judge Morgan thanked him and turned to Jennifer. Ms. Hamilton, your response? Jennifer stood her posture confident. Your Honor, what we've heard is a complete fabrication. Not only did my client never make such a promise, but her parents' actions constitute clear cases of identity theft, forgery, and fraud. She walked forward, presenting copies of the mortgage documents with my forged signature, along with samples of my actual signature for comparison. These documents were created and signed without Ms. Walker's knowledge or consent. Her parents used personal information from old tax returns to apply for a mortgage in her name, then forged her signature on the paperwork. The judge examined the documents carefully, her expression growing increasingly concerned. Furthermore, Jennifer continued, Ms. Walker only discovered this fraud when her parents summoned her home and presented her with a fait accompli, attempting to pressure her into accepting responsibility for a $480,000 mortgage for a house she had no part in selecting and would not be living in. Mr. Bradford jumped up. Your Honor, these are serious allegations against my client's character. Judge Morgan fixed him with a stern look. Indeed, they are, Counselor, and they are supported by compelling evidence. She turned to Jennifer. Please continue, Ms. Hamilton. Jennifer then revealed something I hadn't known. This isn't the first time the Walkers have attempted such a scheme, Your Honor. With the court's permission, I'd like to call James Walker, the defendant's brother, to testify. I turned in surprise as my Uncle James, whom I hadn't seen in years, entered the courtroom. He testified that 5 years earlier, my parents had attempted a similar maneuver with him, trying to get him to co-sponsor a loan for a vacation property they wanted. When he refused, they too had threatened legal action. though they never followed through. Next, Jennifer called a financial expert who testified about the damage already done to my credit score and how the fraudulent mortgage application could affect my ability to secure my own home loan in the future. The expert estimated it could take years to fully repair the damage to my credit history. Then came the most difficult part, the cross-examination. My parents took the stand one after the other, initially maintaining that I had verbally agreed to the arrangement, but under Jennifer's skilled questioning, their story began to fall apart. So, Mr. Walker, Jennifer asked my father, "You claim your daughter verbally agreed to this arrangement, yet you felt it necessary to forge her signature rather than have her sign the documents herself." My father shifted uncomfortably. We were expediting the process. She was busy with work, too busy to sign her name to a $500,000 commitment, yet not too busy to make such a commitment verbally. Jennifer pressed. When my mother took the stand, her strategy was emotional appeals rather than logical arguments. Through tears, she spoke about family duty and how hurt they were by my refusal to help my sister. Mrs. Walker, Jennifer said calmly, "Did you at any point consider that forcing your daughter into massive debt without her consent might damage your relationship with her?" My mother looked genuinely confused, but family helps family. Selena has always understood that. The most revealing testimony, however, came from Amanda. When asked if she had been aware of the plan to put the mortgage in my name, she answered truthfully, "Yes, we discussed it months ago. Mom and Dad said Selena's credit was better and she'd be the logical choice to hold the mortgage. I asked if she had agreed to it, and they said not yet, but she would, because she always does what the family needs." "And were you aware that they forged her signature?" Jennifer asked. Amanda hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. I was there when Dad practiced copying it from her old college documents." A collective gasp went through the courtroom. Even Mr. Bradford looked disturbed by this admission. When asked why they believed I should pay for her house, Amanda replied with shocking honesty, "Because she's always been the responsible one, and I'm still getting established in my career. Plus, it's not like she's married or has kids to support. Her money just sits in savings while I'm trying to start a life with Jackson." Jennifer then asked the question I most wanted answered. "Did you or your parents ever intend to make the mortgage payments yourselves?" Amanda looked down at her hands. "We thought maybe once the wedding happened and things settled, we could start contributing. But right now, all our money is going toward the wedding and furnishing the house." One final bombshell came when Jennifer questioned her about Jackson's family. "Is it true that you told your sister your fiancé's family is wealthy?" Amanda flushed. "We may have exaggerated a bit. Jackson's parents own their home and have good jobs, but they're not actually rich or anything. So the narrative that this house was necessary to impress your fiancé's wealthy family was false," Jennifer clarified. Amanda nodded miserably. By the time all testimony concluded, Judge Morgan called for a 1-hour recess before delivering her decision. The facts were clear, but I still felt anxious. Would the judge understand the family dynamics at play? Would she see through my parents' manipulation? As I sat with Jennifer in a small conference room during the break, she reassured me. "You've done everything right, Selena. The evidence is overwhelmingly in your favor." I nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that no matter what the judge decided, I had already lost my family. When court reconvened, Judge Morgan sat with an air of grave authority. The courtroom fell silent as she shuffled her notes, and then looked up, her gaze sweeping over all parties before settling on my parents. "In my 20 years on the bench," she began, "I have presided over many family disputes, but rarely have I seen such a clear case of calculated financial abuse as what has been presented today." My father started to object, but his lawyer placed a restraining hand on his arm. Judge Morgan continued, her voice firm. "Thomas and Catherine Walker, your actions were not just morally reprehensible, but legally fraudulent. You deliberately forged your daughter's signature on mortgage documents, used her personal information without consent, and then attempted to manipulate her into accepting nearly $500,000 in debt through emotional coercion and threats of family excommunication." My mother was openly crying now, but there was something performative about it that the judge clearly recognized. These tears, now Mrs. Walker, do not move me, she said directly to my mother. If you were truly concerned about family bonds, you would not have conspired to commit fraud against your own daughter. Turning to the entire courtroom, Judge Morgan outlined her ruling. The court finds in favor of the defendant, Selena Walker. The plaintiff's claim of a verbal agreement is dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, the court orders that all mortgage documents bearing Selena Walker's name be immediately nullified and that Thomas and Catherine Walker assume full responsibility for any and all financial obligations related to the property in question. Relief washed through me so powerfully that I nearly cried. Jennifer squeezed my hand under the table. But Judge Morgan wasn't finished. Additionally, the plaintiffs shall pay the defendant's legal fees in full plus damages in the amount of $10,000 for harm done to her credit standing and professional reputation. My father stood up angrily. This is outrageous. She is our daughter. The judge fixed him with an icy stare. Yes, Mr. Walker, she is your daughter, not your property, not your financial resource, but a separate individual with rights that you have egregiously violated. She paused before adding, I am also referring this case to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges of identity theft and forgery. Whether those charges are pursued may depend on your daughter's wishes, but the option will be available to her. She then addressed me directly. Ms. Walker, the court recognizes the immense breach of trust you've experienced. No legal ruling can repair that damage, but I hope this decision offers some measure of protection and vindication. With that, she banged her gavel, and the hearing was over. In the aftermath, several things happened in rapid succession. First, Jennifer filed the necessary paperwork to have my name removed from all mortgage documents and to begin the process of repairing my credit. Second, Amanda's fiancé, Jackson, who had been sitting in the back of the courtroom, approached her with a thunderous expression. Their whispered argument ended with him walking out alone, engagement apparently in jeopardy now that he knew the full truth. Most surprisingly, my Uncle James approached me outside the courtroom. I'm sorry I haven't been around, Selena, he said gruffly. After what your parents tried to pull with me, I kept my distance. I should have warned you they might try the same thing. I assured him it wasn't his fault, and we exchanged contact information with promises to reconnect properly. My parents and Amanda left without speaking to me, though my mother cast tearful glances in my direction as they departed. I felt oddly empty watching them go, as if a chapter of my life was closing permanently. In the days following the court decision, the story somehow leaked to local media. A reporter from the Boston Globe contacted me for comment on what they were calling a cautionary tale of family financial abuse. I declined to be interviewed, but the article ran anyway with quotes from legal experts about the rising trend of identity theft within families. The unwanted publicity brought a flood of messages from distant relatives and old friends, some supportive and others critical. I found myself withdrawing from social media and screening my calls more carefully. My parents made one attempt at reconciliation, though it could hardly be called that. A lengthy email from my mother included phrases like, "We only wanted what's best for the family, and we hope someday you'll understand why we did what we did." Notably absent was any acknowledgement of wrongdoing or apology. I didn't respond. Jennifer advised me to maintain distance until the criminal investigation was complete, and emotionally, I wasn't ready to engage with them anyway. Amanda sent a text that simply read, "Jackson broke the engagement. I hope you're happy now." I blocked her number after that. In the midst of this chaos, I found unexpected strength. My colleagues at work, now fully aware of the situation, created a protective barrier around me. My supervisor even approved a flexible schedule that allowed me to attend therapy sessions without using vacation time. As weeks passed, I began the slow process of rebuilding. Not just my credit score, but my sense of self and security. The legal victory, while validating, couldn't erase the betrayal it experienced. That would take longer to process. But for now, I had confirmation of what I had always suspected, but tried to deny. My family didn't see me as a person deserving of respect and autonomy, but as a resource to be used for Amanda's benefit. The court had rejected that view, and slowly I was learning to reject it too. 6 months after the court case, I sat across from my therapist, Dr. Elaine Foster, in her comfortable office. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, creating a warm glow that matched my cautiously optimistic mood. How do you feel about your parents' potential criminal charges being dropped? Dr. Foster asked, referencing the news I'd shared at the beginning of our session. I considered the question carefully. Relief, mostly. I never wanted them to go to jail. I just wanted the financial nightmare to end and to be acknowledged as a person with rights, not just as Amanda's more successful sister. The district attorney had decided not to pursue criminal charges after my parents paid the court-ordered damages and legal fees and agreed to complete a financial responsibility course. While part of me felt they deserved harsher consequences, another part was grateful to avoid the additional stress of a criminal trial. And you've had no contact with them since the settlement, Dr. Foster prompted. None directly, I confirmed. Aunt Sarah says they're still insisting they did nothing wrong, that I overreacted to their attempt to help the family. But they're keeping their distance. The last 6 months had been transformative in unexpected ways. Without the constant underlying anxiety of trying to please my parents, I found myself more confident at work, resulting in another promotion. I had joined a support group for survivors of family financial abuse, where I met others with similar experiences. Most surprisingly, I'd formed new, healthier relationships that began to feel more like family than my biological one ever had. My friendship with Tara deepened, and we now had standing Sunday dinner plans. I reconnected with Uncle James, who shared stories about his own difficult history with my parents. And my colleagues at the accounting firm had rallied around me during the lawsuit in a way that made me feel truly supported. Dr. Foster called this my chosen family, and the term resonated deeply. The biggest surprise came 3 weeks ago when I received a handwritten letter from Amanda. Unlike our parents, her words contained actual regret. Selena, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I was selfish and entitled, and I let Mom and Dad convince me that using you was somehow okay. Losing Jackson and seeing the legal consequences made me realize how wrong we all were. I'm working now, actually working at a real job and trying to become financially independent for the first time. I miss my big sister, but I understand if that relationship is over forever. After much consideration and discussion with Dr. Foster, I agreed to meet Amanda for coffee at a neutral location. The conversation was awkward and tearful, but also the most honest we'd ever had. She was working as an administrative assistant and living with a roommate truly independent from our parents for the first time in her adult life. We didn't leave as close sisters, but we left with a tentative agreement to maintain limited contact as we both continued healing. My parents, on the other hand, remained unrepentant. According to relatives, they had revised history in their minds, casting me as the ungrateful daughter who abandoned the family in their time of need. I had accepted that I might never receive acknowledgement or apology from them. As Dr. Foster liked to remind me, you can't force someone to respect your boundaries. You can only set them and then decide what to do when others cross them. The professional consequences of the lawsuit eventually settled as well. My credit score was slowly recovering, and the negative impact of the fraudulent applications was documented as identity theft, preventing long-term damage. I'd even been approved for a mortgage pre-qualification letter of my own, a small victory that felt immensely satisfying. Another unexpected development was meeting Michael, a kind and straightforward tax attorney, who asked me out after we worked together on a client case. Unlike previous relationships where I'd often downplayed my needs with Michael, I was clear about my boundaries from the start. He respected them without question, and our relationship was growing stronger because of that honesty. 3 months ago, I'd started volunteering with a financial literacy program aimed at young adults. Teaching others about protecting their credit and recognizing financial red flags gave purpose to my painful experience. Each time a student told me they checked their credit report or learned to spot manipulation tactics, I felt a small piece of my own trauma transform into something useful. Do you still think about the house, Dr. Foster asked, bringing me back to the present moment? Sometimes I admitted, not with anger anymore, but with a kind of sad clarity. That house represented everything wrong with my family dynamic. It was never about giving Amanda a nice place to live. It was about maintaining the fiction that she deserved special treatment even at my expense. My parents had ultimately been forced to sell the house, unable to qualify for the mortgage on their own. Amanda now lived in a modest apartment, and according to Uncle James, my parents had downsized to a smaller home. Their retirement savings significantly reduced by the legal costs and damages they had to pay. As our session wound down, Dr. Foster asked the question she often ended with, "What are you proud of today, Selena?" I smiled, the answer coming easily. "I'm proud that I trusted myself enough to fight back. For years, I doubted my own perceptions about how my family treated me. I made excuses for their favoritism and tried to earn love that should have been freely given. When they crossed the line into criminal behavior, I finally stopped doubting myself and stood up for what I knew was right." Dr. Foster nodded approvingly. "That's the most important victory of all." As I left her office and walked through the Boston streets toward my apartment, I felt the weight of family expectations continuing to lift from my shoulders. The lawsuit had been traumatic, but it had also been clarifying. Some family ties are worth preserving at all costs. Others, when they become chains, need to be broken. In my case, breaking those chains had allowed me to build something new, a life based on mutual respect rather than obligation. A chosen family that valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. And most importantly, a relationship with myself that was no longer defined by being Amanda's responsible older sister or my parents' less favored daughter, but simply by being Selena enough exactly as I was. The path forward wasn't perfectly clear, and some days the pain of family betrayal still caught me by surprise. But for the first time in my life, I was defining family on my own terms, and that made all the difference. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to set boundaries with family members who crossed a line? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself even when it's hard. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know how you handled similar situations in your own life. Remember, sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you the strength to always honor your own worth.